Greetings everyone, my name is Milena Rodriguez, I'm from Nicaragua, and in this video I will share some insights about my dissertation called Indigenous Water Wisdom, the Colonial Media from Abya and for Intergenerational Healing, Sovereignty and Climate Change Solutions. The name Abya, which means blooming land in the Kuna language, is a political articulation to rename and reclaim the continent colonially known as America. Indigenous activists, leaders, and organizations have increasingly used this name since the 1980s to evoke a continental sense of belonging and inter-indigenous solidarity. I focus my research on three audiovisual media productions and their indigenous creators. These are the music video Pire by Mapuche activist, singer, and songwriter Anaí Ryan Mariluan, the feature film In Times of Rain by Mixtec scholar and filmmaker Itandewi Jansen, and the social media storytelling on Instagram by young environmental and human rights activist Autumn Peltier, Chief Water Commissioner from the Anishinaabe Nation. Indigenous knowledge and lifeways are lived epistemologies perceived, embodied, and practiced through languages, ceremonies, cosmologies, and values, and move through various dimensions of relationality. My objective was to analyze, interpret, and understand the embeddedness of water-based wisdom in indigenous audiovisual storytelling. I studied these productions through a multimodal discourse analysis to consider how these audiovisual productions express the manifold and interconnected meanings of water, which include aspects of scientific knowledge, spiritual teachings, symbols, and origin stories within indigenous worldviews. I focus on linguistic, visual, auditory, gestural, and spatial elements of audiovisual storytelling to draw attention to how indigenous creators exercise audiovisual sovereignty and reclaim their historical landscapes and waterscapes. My contribution to the field of children's media and cultural studies is the interdisciplinary analysis of the audiovisual representation of indigenous children's interconnection with water, their elders, their ecosystems, and the multidimensional worlds of indigenous philosophies. This study was motivated by my birthplace, the Manqueme Chorotega land, which is surrounded by an abundance of water in the form of lakes, lagoons, hot springs, rainforests, and the ocean. It extends from my personal interest in indigenous issues, my identity as an indigenous and anti-colonial educator, and my love for our planet Earth, our common home. It also extends from my previous undergraduate studies in human ecology and my empirical research on indigenous history, identity construction, and education sovereignty in Nicaragua, which provided me with a solid foundation for understanding the impacts of colonization, systemic injustice, and hegemonic policies on the lives of indigenous children throughout the centuries and up to the present day. Colonialism has systematically erased the holistic systems of interdependent relationships between humans and ecosystems worldwide through various forms, including violent appropriation of land and water and hegemonic control of narratives. Cultural and audiovisual misrepresentation and erasure of indigenous people are key aspects of colonization. Indigenous productions provide a holistic outlook on the vital role of water in people's lives. They invite the audience to appreciate how indigenous people understand and interact with water. These cultural productions reflect how indigenous knowledge systems are relational and situated. They show how indigenous water wisdom is shared through intergenerational learning, where children and youth are portrayed experiencing landscapes and waterscapes together with their older relatives. The intergenerational sharing and continuum of embodied ways of appreciating, listening to, and thanking water through rituals and ceremonies suggests that these bonds are vital for the intergenerational healing of historical traumas and present-day challenges. My purpose with this research is to contribute to restoring interconnection of children with their biocultural heritage and the revitalization of indigenous culture in my region. The studies that inform my dissertation comprehend different fields, such as children's literature, media and culture, environmental and climate justice, media and cultural studies, indigenous epistemologies, indigenous anti-colonial and decolonial methodologies. I grounded my study with indigenous philosophies from Abya, referencing indigenous and decolonial scholars. I paid close attention to indigenous media theory and the importance of exercising audiovisual sovereignty through film, music, and social media as tools for reclaiming and reimagining indigenous futures. The international and multidisciplinary literature review called Waterback was one of the core studies that influenced my dissertation, along with the following ones. Childhood and children's rights scholars, Indigenous activists and researchers, cultural and educational institutions such as schools, libraries, and museums, film educators and film festivals, and anyone who is interested in water issues and the restoration of personal, collective, and planetary well-being would find this study beneficial. The intersection of several critical environmental and social issues of our time can be found in the study of water issues. In times of acute climate crisis, it is vital to support and amplify Indigenous sovereignty and futurities. In times of One of the most exciting aspects of doing this research was to find a wide array of Indigenous storytelling approaches, such as animated series, video games, children's shows with puppets, music videos, documentaries, and many others. All of them were created with so much love and commitment to offer Indigenous youth renewed and dignified ways of seeing themselves represented in the digital media world. What is eye-opening about these three specific cases is the profound ways in which the creators weave historical, cultural, philosophical, and spiritual aspects of Indigenous life. And even though Indigenous productions are increasing in numbers, it is yet not enough, as there is unequal access to funding and amplifying projects from the most disadvantaged communities. And even there are so many and varied ways in which this topic can be expanded in practical and participatory ways. In the pedagogical dimension, for example, I envision this research to be adapted as an experiential learning program, near and within waterscapes where Indigenous knowledge keepers can teach community children about water stories and ecological knowledge, thus reclaiming the integration of Indigenous knowledge systems into our pedagogies. I would also customize this study to inspire intergenerational workshops in libraries, cultural centers, and film festivals where community elders share their insights they have acquired over the years with younger generations. This study supports the practice of Indigenous sovereignty because it raises awareness about the revitalization of unique, vital, and irreplaceable knowledge, values, and cultural practices. Moreover, this study fosters the discussion about nurturing younger generations and our interconnection with water and earth ecosystems. I dedicate this research to young generations in Aviala. May you have the opportunity to learn about your ancestors, envision and create your dreams, be yourselves, and enjoy healthy waterscapes.